Welcome to Quick Sleep, a quiet place where stories come alive, just as your day winds down. Take a deep breath, let go of the noise, and allow your imagination to drift into a world of gentle tales and peaceful dreams. You're listening to Quick Sleep, bedtime stories to calm your mind. In the vast, windswept expanse of the Mongolian steppes, where the horizon stretched endlessly and the sky seemed to touch the earth, a young boy named Temujin was born into a world of hardship and survival. It was the year 1162, a time when the sprawling grasslands were home to countless nomadic tribes, each fiercely independent yet constantly intertwined in alliances and rivalries. The steppes were not just a landscape but a way of life, demanding resilience from those who called it home. Here, the air carried the scent of wildflowers in spring and the biting chill of winter's relentless winds. Herds of horses roamed freely, their thundering hooves echoing across the plains, while yurts dotted the land like scattered pearls, each housing families bound by blood and tradition. Temujin's birthplace lay near the Anan River, a sacred site for his people, where the waters flowed with vitality and the surrounding hills whispered stories of ancestors long gone. His father, Usuge, was a respected chieftain of the Kiyad tribe, part of the larger Borjigin clan. A man of imposing stature and fierce determination, Usuge commanded loyalty through both strength and wisdom. He had earned his place among the elite warriors of the steppe, known for his skill in battle and his ability to forge strategic alliances. Yet beneath his hardened exterior lay a deep love for his family and an unwavering commitment to securing their future. Usuge envisioned a legacy that would extend beyond his lifetime, a vision he hoped to pass on to his eldest son. Temujin's mother, Holun, was equally remarkable. Captured as a bride during one of Usuge's raids, she had transformed from a reluctant captive into a pillar of strength within the family. Her intelligence and resourcefulness were unmatched, traits that would later shape Temujin's own character. She bore 5 children, but it was Temujin who held her heart most dearly. From infancy, she saw in him a spark of greatness, though it often burned alongside a volatile temper. Holun instilled in her son the values of honor, loyalty, and resilience, qualities essential for survival in their harsh environment. The family lived in a modest yurt, its walls adorned with colorful tapestries depicting scenes of hunting and warfare. Life revolved around the rhythms of nature, tending to livestock, preparing meals over open fires, and teaching the children the skills necessary for adulthood. For young Temujin, these lessons came early and often. By the age of 6, he could ride a horse bareback with ease, his small frame balanced perfectly atop the galloping animal. He learned to wield a bow with precision, his arrows finding their mark even at great distances. These abilities were not merely hobbies but necessities, as the steppes offered little room for weakness or hesitation. Yet life was far from idyllic. The political landscape of the region was fraught with tension. Tribal leaders vied for power, forming fragile alliances that could shatter at any moment. Betrayal was common, and trust was a rare commodity. Yusuke navigated this treacherous terrain with caution, knowing that a single misstep could spell disaster for his family. When Temujin was just 9 years old, Yusuke arranged a betrothal between his son and Barte, the daughter of a neighboring tribe's leader. This union was meant to solidify an alliance, ensuring the safety and prosperity of their clans. However, fate had other plans. One fateful day, while returning from a journey, Yusuke stopped at a feast hosted by the Tatars, a rival tribe. Unrivaled tribe, unbeknownst to him, they served him poisoned food. A calculated act of vengeance for past grievances. Weakened and betrayed, Yusuke managed to send word to his family before succumbing to the poison. His death sent shockwaves through the household, leaving Holun and her children vulnerable. Without a strong male figurehead, the clan quickly fragmented, with many abandoning the family to fend for themselves. Overnight, Temujin's world shifted from one of relative security to one of uncertainty and danger. This loss became a crucible for Temujin, shaping the trajectory of his life. Though still a child, he inherited not only his father's name but also the burden of leadership. The steppes, once a source of freedom and adventure, now revealed their unforgiving nature. Hunger, cold, and the constant threat of enemies loomed large. Through it all, Temujin clung to the lessons imparted by his parents: adaptability in the face of adversity, courage in the shadow of fear, and an unyielding will to survive. Little did he know that these early trials were forging the foundation upon which he would build an empire. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the steppes in hues of gold and crimson, Temujin gazed out across the land. In his youthful eyes, there was a flicker of something greater. A sense of destiny intertwined with the vastness of the plains. The boy who once ran free under the open skies was beginning to understand the weight of his heritage. The stage was set, and the winds of change were gathering force. What lay ahead was a journey unlike any other, one that would transform not only Temujin but the entire world. The death of Yusuke left a void that echoed across the steppes, reverberating through every member of the family. For Temujin, the transition from the sheltered life of a chieftain's son to the harsh reality of orphanhood was abrupt and merciless. Holun, now the sole guardian of her children, faced the daunting task of ensuring their survival in a world that showed no mercy to the weak. Her days were consumed by the relentless pursuit of sustenance, gathering roots, hunting small game, and bartering what little they had for necessities. Yet, despite her tireless efforts, the specter of hunger loomed large, its gnawing presence a constant reminder of their precarious existence. Temujin, too, shouldered the burdens of his new reality. At just 9 years old, he was thrust into roles typically reserved for adults. Each morning, he rose before dawn to tend to the few remaining livestock, their numbers dwindling as predators and thieves took their toll. He learned to mend torn leather, craft crude tools, and scavenge for firewood in the biting cold. His hands, once soft and uncalloused, grew rough and weathered, a testament to the hardships he endured. Yet, amidst the grueling labor, Temujin discovered a reservoir of resilience within himself. He began to view challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to prove his mettle. One of the most significant tests of Temujin's character came in the form of betrayal. Shortly after Yusuge's death, members of the Taiyichut clan, who had previously pledged allegiance to the family, turned their backs on them, claiming that a boy too young to lead was unworthy of their loyalty. They seized the family's remaining herds and abandoned them to the elements. This act of treachery left Temujin seething with rage, a fire that would smolder in his chest for years to come. It was during this period that he first encountered Jamuka, a childhood friend whose family offered temporary refuge. Their bond deepened as they shared stories of their dreams and aspirations. Though neither could have foreseen how their paths would diverge in the years ahead, another pivotal moment occurred when Temujin, desperate to protect his family, attempted to reclaim stolen horses from the Taiyichu. Armed with nothing more than a makeshift spear and sheer determination, he confronted the raiders. The encounter ended in failure, with Temujin narrowly escaping capture. Humiliated but undeterred, he vowed never to let such vulnerability define him again. This incident marked the beginning of his transformation into a strategist, someone who understood the value of patience and planning. He began observing the tactics of seasoned warriors, studying how they moved, fought, and Naku'd. Every lesson, no matter how small, was etched into his memory, forming the blueprint for his future conquests. Yet, not all experiences were marked by conflict. During this tumultuous period, Temujin formed a bond with his siblings that would endure the trials of time. His younger brother, Kasar, proved to be a steadfast ally, sharing in the burdens of survival and offering moments of levity when despair threatened to overwhelm them. Together, they devised ingenious ways to supplement their meager resources, whether by trapping fish in icy streams or fashioning traps to catch unsuspecting prey. Their camaraderie became a beacon of hope in an otherwise bleak existence, reminding Temujin of the importance of unity and trust. Perhaps the most defining aspect of Temujin's youth was his relationship with his mother. Despite the immense pressure she faced, she remained a guiding light for her children, imparting wisdom that transcended the immediate struggles of daily life. She taught Temujin the art of diplomacy, emphasizing the power of alliances and the dangers of blind vengeance. A true leader, she often said, does not rule by fear alone, but by earning the respect of those he leads. Her words planted seeds of ambition in Temujin's mind, nurturing his desire to rise above his circumstances and carve out a legacy worthy of his father's name. As the years passed, Temujin's physical prowess matched the growth of his inner resolve. His mastery of horsemanship reached new heights, allowing him to navigate the steppes with unparalleled agility. Archery became second nature, his aim honed to perfection through countless hours of practice. He also developed a keen awareness of his surroundings, learning to read the subtle signs of nature from the direction of the wind to the behavior of animals that could mean the difference between life and death. These skills, coupled with his growing intellect, set him apart from others his age, earning him a reputation as someone to watch. By the time Temujin reached adolescence, he had emerged from the crucible of his youth, tempered and refined. The boy who once cowered in the shadow of loss had transformed into a young man driven by purpose. The trials he endured had not only shaped his character but also sharpened his vision for the future. He dreamed of a world where loyalty was rewarded, justice prevailed, and no family would suffer the indignities his had endured. Though the path ahead remained uncertain, Temujin was determined to forge it with his own hands. The winds of fate continued to swirl around him, carrying whispers of destiny that he was ready to embrace. The shifting sands of loyalty and enmity defined Temujin's adolescence, a period marked by profound connections and devastating betrayals that would shape the course of his life. Among these relationships, none were more significant than his complex bond with Jamuka, his childhood friend and eventual rival, and his marriage to Berthe, the woman who became his anchor amidst the chaos of the steppe. Each interaction, whether forged in camaraderie or fractured by betrayal, added layers to Temujin's understanding of human nature and the delicate balance of power. Jamuka, the son of a minor chieftain, had been a constant companion during Temujin's formative years. Their friendship blossomed amid shared adventures and whispered dreams of glory under the vast Mongolian skies. They hunted together, practiced archery side by side, and exchanged tales of valor around crackling campfires. To Temujin, Jamuka represented not only a kindred spirit, but also a glimpse of stability in an otherwise turbulent world. It was during this time that Temujin first began to envision a future where alliances could transcend tribal divisions, a vision inspired by the unwavering trust he placed in his friend. However, the innocence of their bond was tested when Jamuka's family offered sanctuary to Temujin and his siblings after the Tayachiyud clan's betrayal. While gratitude swelled in Temujin's heart, so too did a creeping sense of inferiority. Jamuka's privileged upbringing stood in stark contrast to Temujin's hard-scrabble existence, and the disparity between them became increasingly apparent as they grew older. Where Temujin struggled to rebuild his shattered life, Jamuka ascended effortlessly within his own clan, earning accolades for his leadership and martial prowess. This divergence sowed seeds of resentment that would later bloom into bitter rivalry. The turning point in their relationship came when Temujin sought Jamuka's support in reclaiming his rightful place as leader of the Kiad tribe. Believing their childhood camaraderie would translate into mutual loyalty, Temujin approached Jamuka with a proposal to unite their clans. Instead, he was met with condescension. Jamuka dismissed Temujin's ambitions, viewing him as unworthy of such a lofty goal. The rejection cut deep, exposing the fragility of their friendship and revealing the stark divide between them. What had once been a partnership built on shared dreams now felt like a transaction weighed down by pride and ambition. Despite this setback, Temujin found solace and renewed purpose in his marriage to Bertay. Arranged by his late father, the union with the Morkit tribe's daughter was initially intended to strengthen political ties. Yet, as Temujin came to know Bertay, he discovered a partner whose strength and wisdom rivaled his own. Her quiet resolve complemented his fiery determination, and together they forged a bond rooted in mutual respect rather than mere obligation. Bertay became more than a wife. She was a confidant, a strategist, and a source of unwavering support in times of turmoil. Their marriage faced its greatest trials soon after their wedding. When Bertay was abducted by the Merkits in retaliation for an old feud involving Yusuge, the loss struck Temujin with a fury that bordered on despair. For weeks, he plotted his revenge, rallying allies and marshaling resources until he could mount a rescue mission. When he finally reclaimed Bertay, she returned pregnant, a fact that ignited rumors about the child's paternity. Rather than succumb to doubt or shame, Temujin embraced the situation with characteristic pragmatism. Declaring the child, Yushe, as his own, he demonstrated a level of magnanimity that earned him respect among his followers. This decision underscored his belief in unity over division, even at great personal cost. The events surrounding Bertay's abduction further solidified Temujin's resolve to challenge the prevailing norms of tribal society. He recognized that the cycle of retribution and vendettas perpetuated by clans like the Merkits and Tayachid only weakened their collective strength. If he were to achieve his ambitions, he needed to break free from these entrenched patterns and forge a new path, one based on merit rather than birthright. This realization led him to seek out individuals who shared his vision, regardless of their tribal affiliations. Among these allies was Subutai, a brilliant tactician whose strategic acumen would later play a pivotal role in Temujin's campaigns. Another key supporter was Jebe, a former enemy who had once wounded Temujin in battle but earned his forgiveness through an act of bravery. By embracing such unlikely allies, Temujin began to assemble a diverse coalition united not by blood but by shared purpose. Yet, not all alliances proved fruitful. One particularly painful betrayal came from within Temujin's own family. His half-brother, Bigtar, harbored ambitions of his own and sought to undermine Temujin's authority. The tension escalated into a violent confrontation, culminating in Bigtar's death at Temujin's hands. Though justified as an act of self-preservation, the killing left scars on Temujin's psyche, reinforcing his belief that loyalty must be earned and vigilance maintained at all times. It was a harsh lesson, but one that tempered his leadership style, making him both cautious and calculating in his dealings with others. Through these experiences, Temujin honed his ability to navigate the intricate web of human relationship. He learned to discern genuine loyalty from opportunistic alliances, to reward faithfulness while punishing treachery, and to inspire devotion without resorting to fear alone. These skills would prove invaluable as he embarked on his quest for dominance, transforming him from a survivor of the steppes into a leader capable of uniting disparate tribes under a single banner. The bonds he forged and the betrayals he endured were not merely personal dramas but stepping stones toward a greater destiny. As the winds of fate continued to swirl, Temujin stood ready to harness them, his resolve unshaken and his vision clear. As Temujin entered his 20s, the steppes witnessed the emergence of a formidable warlord whose tactical brilliance and charismatic leadership began to reshape the fractured landscape of tribal politics. No longer content to remain a pawn in the games of others, Temujin set his sights on reclaiming the legacy denied him by circumstance and betrayal. His ascent was neither swift nor straightforward. It was a painstaking process marked by calculated risks, decisive battles, and the gradual accumulation of power. Each victory, however small, laid another stone in the foundation of what would become one of history's most extraordinary empires. The first major test of Temujin's military acumen came when he sought to assert control over the remnants of his father's Kiad tribe. Strengthened by the alliances he had painstakingly cultivated, including the unwavering support of his brothers Kesar and Kachun, Temujin launched a campaign to win back the loyalty of those who had abandoned his family after Usege's death. His approach was methodical, rather than relying solely on brute force. He employed a combination of diplomacy and intimidation. He invited former allies to join him voluntarily, offering them positions of honor and shared spoils if they pledged fealty. Those who resisted faced swift and merciless retribution. This dual strategy, not only punishing defiance but rewarding cooperation, proved remarkably effective, as many chose to align themselves with the rising star rather than oppose him. One of the earliest and most significant victories in this campaign was the Battle of Dalan Balzut, where Temujin confronted the Tayachud clan, the same group that had betrayed his family years earlier. The battle was a masterclass in guerrilla warfare, showcasing Temujin's growing expertise in leveraging the terrain to his advantage. Aware that his forces were outnumbered, he ordered his men to disperse and strike at the enemy from multiple angles, using the rolling hills and dense thickets of the steppes as cover. The Tayachud, caught off guard by the ferocity and unpredictability of the attacks, quickly descended into chaos. By the time Temujin led a final charge against their weakened ranks, the outcome was inevitable. The victory was not just a triumph of arms but a symbolic assertion of justice, as Temujin made it clear that betrayal would not go unpunished. With the Tayachud subdued, Temujin turned his attention to consolidating his gains. He implemented reforms designed to foster unity and efficiency within his growing coalition. One of his most innovative decisions was the creation of a merit-based system for appointing commanders and advisors. Unlike traditional tribal hierarchies, which favored lineage over capability, Temujin elevated individuals based on their skills and contributions. This included figures like Subutai, whose genius for strategy became indispensable, and Jebe, whose battlefield prowess earned him the nickname Arrow. By prioritizing competence over birthright, Temujin attracted talented warriors and thinkers from across the steppes, further strengthening his position. Another hallmark of Temujin's leadership was his emphasis on discipline and organization. Recognizing that cohesion was essential for success, he introduced strict codes of conduct for his troops. Soldiers were required to maintain their equipment meticulously, obey orders without question, and treat civilians with respect. A stark contrast to the widespread plunder and violence typical of steppe warfare. These measures not only improved morale but also enhanced the effectiveness of his forces, creating an army that was both feared and respected. Additionally, Temujin established a network of spies and scouts to gather intelligence on rival tribes, ensuring that he always held the upper hand in negotiations and conflicts. Temujin's reputation as a visionary leader grew exponentially following his victory over the powerful Karaite tribe, led by Togrul, once a close ally of Yusuf. The betrayal of Togrul, who had initially promised support but later turned against Temujin, was a bitter blow. Yet, instead of succumbing to anger, Temujin used the betrayal to galvanize his followers, framing the conflict as a fight for survival and legitimacy. The climactic showdown occurred at the Battle of the 13 Sides, where Temujin's forces faced overwhelming odds. Once again, his tactical ingenuity proved decisive. Employing feigned retreats and flanking maneuvers, he lured the Karaite into disarray before delivering a crushing counterattack. The defeat of Togrul marked a turning point, signaling to the steppes that Temujin was no longer a contender but a dominant force. Beyond the battlefield, Temujin's diplomatic maneuvers further solidified his power. He brokered alliances with neighboring tribes, offering protection and shared prosperity in exchange for loyalty. Notably, his reconciliation with the Jadaran tribe, led by his former friend Jamuka, demonstrated his willingness to forgive past grievances in pursuit of broader objectives. Although their relationship remained strained, the alliance temporarily stabilized the region, allowing Temujin to focus on expanding his influence. He also extended his reach through marriage alliances, arranging unions between his daughters and influential chieftains to cement ties and ensure long-term cooperation. Despite these successes, Temujin's rise was not without setbacks. The Merkit tribe, still embittered by the earlier abduction of Bertet, launched repeated raids against his territories. These skirmishes tested his patience and resolve, as the Merkits exploited every opportunity to weaken his hold. Yet, Temujin refused to be drawn into prolonged engagements that might deplete his resources. Instead, he adopted a strategy of attrition, targeting the Merkits' supply lines and isolating them from potential allies. Over time, this relentless pressure eroded their resistance, forcing them to sue for peace on terms favorable to Temujin. By the end of this transformative phase, Temujin had achieved what many deemed impossible: the unification of several major tribes under his banner. His coalition, though diverse in origin, operated with a singular purpose, united by a shared vision of stability and prosperity. The steppes, once a patchwork of warring factions, began to coalesce around his leadership. This newfound unity was not merely a reflection of military dominance but also a testament to Temujin's ability to inspire loyalty and command respect. As word of his achievements spread, whispers of a greater destiny began to circulate. Whispers that would soon crystallize into reality. When Temujin convened a Kurultai, or Grand Assembly, to formalize his authority, the response was unprecedented. Chiefs and warriors from across the steppes gathered to pledge their allegiance, recognizing him as a leader unlike any other. It was here, amidst the sea of faces and the fluttering banners of myriad tribes, that Temujin declared his intention to unite all Mongols under a single banner. The declaration was met with cheers and vows of fealty, marking the dawn of a new era. The boy who had once wandered the steppes as an outcast was now poised to become the architect of an empire, and thus, the warlord Temujin stepped onto the stage of history, ready to fulfill the destiny written in the stars. The year was 100 and the Mongolian steppes bore witness to an event that would alter the course of history forever. Beneath the vast expanse of the open sky, where the winds carried whispers of ancient legends, a grand Kurultai was convened. Chiefs, warriors, and dignitaries from across the steppes gathered in a sea of yurts and banners, their faces reflecting a mix of awe, anticipation, and reverence. It was here, amidst the clamor of drums and the rhythmic beat of hooves, that Temujin, the once displaced son of a chieftain, was proclaimed Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. The title, bestowed upon him by his people, symbolized not only his supremacy over the Mongol tribes but also his ambition to unify and expand his dominion far beyond the confines of the steppes. The proclamation of Genghis Khan was more than a ceremonial elevation. It was the culmination of decades of struggle, sacrifice, and strategic brilliance. For Temujin, it marked the realization of a dream that had taken root in the darkest moments of his youth. As he stood before the assembled multitude, clad in armor that gleamed under the midday sun, he addressed his followers with a voice that resonated with authority and purpose. "We are no longer divided," he declared, his words echoing across the plains. "From this day forward, we are one people, bound by a shared destiny. Together, we shall conquer the world." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices blending into a symphony of unity that reverberated across the land. Central to Genghis Khan's vision was the establishment of the Yasa, a comprehensive legal code that sought to govern every aspect of Mongol society. The Yasa was not merely a set of laws but a reflection of Genghis Khan's philosophy of order, justice, and accountability. Its provisions ranged from mundane regulations, such as prohibitions against theft and adultery, to sweeping reforms aimed at restructuring the fabric of Mongol life. For instance, the Yasa mandated absolute loyalty to the Khan, prescribing severe penalties for acts of betrayal or insubordination. It also codified rules for warfare, dictating that soldiers must adhere to strict codes of conduct, sparing non-combatants and respecting the sanctity of trade routes. These principles, though seemingly contradictory to the brutal reputation of the Mongols, underscored Genghis Khan's belief in the importance of discipline and fairness as tools for maintaining cohesion within his rapidly expanding empire. Another cornerstone of the Yasa was its emphasis on meritocracy. Genghis Khan abolished the rigid tribal hierarchies that had long dominated Mongol society, replacing them with a system that rewarded talent and achievement over lineage. Positions of power were now granted based on ability rather than birthright, ensuring that the most capable individuals rose to prominence. This radical departure from tradition not only fostered a culture of excellence, but also attracted skilled warriors, administrators, and artisans from conquered territories. The Yasa thus became a mechanism for integrating diverse populations into the Mongol fold, transforming adversaries into loyal subjects who contributed to the empire's growth. Genghis Khan's governance extended beyond legal reforms to encompass administrative innovations that facilitated the efficient management of his burgeoning realm. He established a centralized bureaucracy, appointing trusted advisors and officials to oversee various aspects of governance. Among these was the Orkhon script, a writing system adapted from the Uyghurs, which enabled the recording of decrees, treaties, and historical accounts. This development marked a significant shift in Mongol culture, as literacy became a tool for preserving knowledge and consolidating power. Additionally, Genghis Khan created the Yam, a network of relay stations that spanned the length and breadth of his territories. These stations, equipped with fresh horses and supplies, allowed messengers to travel swiftly across vast distances, ensuring rapid communication between the capital and the farthest reaches of the empire. The Yam not only strengthened internal cohesion, but also laid the groundwork for the Mongols' legendary speed and coordination in warfare. Military organization was another area where Genghis Khan's genius shone brightly. Drawing on lessons learned from his early campaigns, he restructured the Mongol army into a highly disciplined and versatile fighting force. The army was divided into units known as tumans, each comprising 10,000 soldiers, which could operate independently or combine seamlessly in larger operations. Within these tumans, smaller units of thousands, hundreds, and tens ensured tight command structures and precise execution of orders. This hierarchical organization allowed for unprecedented flexibility, enabling the Mongols to adapt to any battlefield scenario. Furthermore, Genghis Khan instituted rigorous training regimens that emphasized horsemanship, archery, and endurance, ensuring that every soldier was a master of mobility and precision. The result was an army that moved with unparalleled speed and struck with devastating accuracy. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of Genghis Khan's reign was his policy of religious tolerance. Unlike many rulers of his time, who imposed their faith on conquered peoples, Genghis Khan adopted a pragmatic approach to religion. He recognized the diversity of beliefs within his empire and understood that enforcing uniformity would breed resentment and instability. Instead, he granted freedom of worship to all subjects, provided they remained loyal to the state. This policy not only fostered goodwill among conquered populations, but also attracted scholars, merchants, and missionaries from distant lands, enriching the cultural tapestry of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan himself maintained a pragmatic stance toward religion, consulting shamans, Buddhist monks, and Islamic clerics alike, drawing wisdom from their teachings while avoiding dogmatic adherence to any single creed. As Genghis Khan consolidated his power, he also turned his attention to the arts and sciences, fostering an environment where creativity and innovation could flourish. Artisans captured during military campaigns were often spared and relocated to the Mongol capital, where they contributed to the construction of monumental architecture and the production of exquisite artifacts. Scholars and engineers were similarly valued, their expertise harnessed to advance fields such as astronomy, medicine, and metallurgy. This patronage of intellectual pursuits reflected Genghis Khan's belief in the interconnectedness of knowledge and power, as well as his desire to elevate the Mongol Empire to a position of global prominence. By the end of his reign, Genghis Khan had transformed the fragmented tribes of the steppes into a cohesive and formidable empire. His policies and innovations not only secured his authority but also laid the foundation for the dynasty that would follow. The Mongol Empire, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, stood as a testament to his vision and determination. Yet, even as he basked in the adulation of his people, Genghis Khan remained acutely aware of the challenges that lay ahead. The world beyond the steppes was vast and varied, teeming with civilizations that possessed wealth, technology, and armies of their own. To secure the future of his empire, Genghis Khan knew that expansion was inevitable. With the stage set and his forces prepared, the universal ruler cast his gaze outward, ready to embark on a campaign that would reshape the map of Eurasia. The year 1211 marked the beginning of Genghis Khan's audacious campaign to expand his empire beyond the steppes. A venture that would ultimately redraw the geopolitical boundaries of Asia. The first target of this ambitious endeavor was the Jin dynasty, a formidable Chinese empire that controlled the northern regions of modern-day China, dominated by the Jurchen people. The Jin boasted a sophisticated administrative structure, advanced military technology, and vast reserves of wealth accumulated through centuries of trade and agriculture. To Genghis Khan, the Jin represented both an opportunity and a challenge, a chance to demonstrate the Mongols' superiority on the battlefield, while securing access to resources that could sustain his growing empire. The invasion of the Jin dynasty would not only test the limits of Mongol strategy but also reveal the full extent of Genghis Khan's tactical genius. The campaign began with meticulous preparation. Genghis Khan assembled an army of over 90,000 warriors, a force that combined the mobility and ferocity of the Mongol cavalry with the precision of his newly reorganized military units. Key to the operation was Subotai, whose strategic insights were instrumental in planning the invasion. Recognizing the Jin's reliance on fortified cities and static defenses, Subotai proposed a series of lightning-fast raids designed to disrupt supply lines and isolate key targets. Meanwhile, Jabei, another trusted general, was tasked with leading diversionary attacks to draw Jin forces away from their strongholds. This multi-pronged approach exemplified the Mongols' ability to adapt their tactics to the strengths and weaknesses of their opponents, a hallmark of their military doctrine. The initial phase of the campaign focused on breaching the Great Wall of China, the Jin dynasty's primary line of defense. Constructed over centuries to repel nomadic invaders, the wall was a formidable barrier that stretched across rugged terrain, punctuated by watchtowers and heavily guarded gates. Rather than attempting a direct assault, Genghis Khan opted for subtlety. His forces infiltrated remote sections of the wall under the cover of darkness, scaling cliffs and traversing narrow passes to bypass the Jin's defenses. Once inside, they launched surprise attacks on poorly defended settlements, sowing panic and confusion among the local population. These early victories served a dual purpose. They demoralized the Jin forces while providing the Mongols with much-needed supplies and intelligence about the empire's vulnerabilities. By 1213, the Mongols had advanced deep into Jin territory, capturing several strategic cities along the way. One of the most significant triumphs came at the Battle of Yahuling, where Genghis Khan's forces decisively defeated a Jin army nearly twice their size. The battle unfolded on a narrow mountain pass, where the Jin's numerical advantage was neutralized by the confined space. Employing classic Mongol tactics, the invaders feigned retreat, luring the Jin troops into a chaotic pursuit. Once the enemy was sufficiently disordered, Genghis Khan unleashed his reserve forces, encircling and annihilating the Jin army. The victory not only showcased the Mongols' mastery of terrain, but also dealt a crippling blow to Jin morale. It became clear that the Jin's conventional methods of warfare were ill-suited to counter the fluid and unpredictable nature of Mongol combat. As the campaign progressed, Genghis Khan turned his attention to the Jin capital, Chengdu, modern-day Beijing. Surrounded by massive walls and protected by a garrison of elite soldiers, Chengdu was considered impregnable, a symbol of Jin power and resilience. Undeterred, Genghis Khan devised a plan to besiege the city, cutting off its supply routes and subjecting it to relentless bombardment using siege engines crafted by captured Chinese artisans. The psychological impact of the siege was compounded by the Mongols' use of terror tactics, including the deliberate destruction of nearby villages to instill fear among the defenders. After months of relentless pressure, the Jin emperor sued for peace, agreeing to pay tribute and cede control of northern territories to the Mongols. Though the city itself remained unconquered for the time being, the terms of surrender marked a significant victory for Genghis Khan, cementing his dominance in the region. The success of the Jin campaign emboldened Genghis Khan to pursue further conquests, setting his sights westward toward the Khwarezmian Empire. Stretching across present-day Iran, Afghanistan, and parts of Central Asia, the Khwarezmian Empire was a sprawling Muslim state, renowned for its opulent cities, bustling trade networks, and formidable military. Ruled by Shah Ala ad-Din Muhammad II, the empire appeared invincible at first glance. Its wealth derived from its position along the Silk Road. However, beneath the surface lay cracks that Genghis Khan was quick to exploit. Internal dissent, corruption, and a lack of unity among its diverse population. Sensing an opportunity, Genghis Khan dispatched envoys to the Khwarezmian court, proposing a mutually beneficial trade agreement that would link the Mongols to the lucrative markets of the Middle East. The overture was met with suspicion and hostility. In 1218, a caravan of Mongol merchants traveling to the Khwarezmian city of Otrar was massacred on the orders of the local governor, who accused them of espionage. Outraged by this provocation, Genghis Khan sent emissaries to demand justice, only to have them executed by the Shah himself. This act of defiance sealed the fate of the Khwarezmian Empire. Declaring war, Genghis Khan mobilized an unprecedented force of over 200,000 warriors, dividing them into multiple columns to invade from different directions. The scale and coordination of the operation reflected the Mongols' growing sophistication as a military power, as well as their ability to project force across vast distances. The ensuing conflict was characterized by brutality and innovation in equal measure. Cities such as Bukhara, Samarkand, and Urgench fell one after another, their populations subjected to horrific massacres as punishment for resistance. The Mongols' use of psychological warfare, spreading rumors of impending doom and displaying the severed heads of slain enemies, amplified the terror, compelling many towns to surrender without a fight. Simultaneously, Genghis Khan employed advanced siege techniques, incorporating Chinese engineering expertise to construct massive catapults and battering rams capable of breaching even the strongest fortifications. The fall of Samarkand in 1220 was particularly emblematic of this approach, as the city's defenders were overwhelmed by the sheer force of the Mongol assault. Despite the devastation wrought by the Mongol invasion, Genghis Khan displayed a pragmatic streak in dealing with the remnants of the Khwarezmian Empire. Skilled artisans, scholars, and engineers were spared and relocated to Mongol-controlled territories, where their talents were harnessed to enhance the empire's infrastructure and technological capabilities. Trade routes were reopened and policed by Mongol patrols, ensuring the safe passage of goods and travelers. This blend of ruthlessness and pragmatism underscored Genghis Khan's overarching goal to create an empire that transcended ethnic and cultural divides, unified by the twin pillars of loyalty and prosperity. By the time the dust settled, the Khwarezmian Empire lay in ruins, its once mighty cities reduced to rubble. For Genghis Khan, the conquest was more than a demonstration of military might. It was a validation of his vision for a world connected by commerce, knowledge, and shared governance. The victories in China and Central Asia not only expanded the Mongol Empire to unprecedented dimensions, but also established Genghis Khan as a ruler whose ambitions knew no bounds. As he surveyed the vast territories now under his control, the universal ruler contemplated the next phase of his grand design, the integration of these diverse lands into a cohesive and enduring empire. The twilight years of Genghis Khan's reign were marked by a profound sense of introspection and preparation for the future. Having forged an empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, He understood that the longevity of his achievements depended not only on the strength of his conquests, but also on the resilience of the institutions and values he had established. As his health began to wane, Genghis Khan turned his attention inward, focusing on solidifying the foundations of his empire and ensuring a seamless transition of power to his successors. This period was defined by both reflection on his monumental legacy and careful planning for the challenges that lay ahead, a testament to his enduring pragmatism and foresight. One of Genghis Khan's most significant contributions during these final years was the codification and dissemination of the Yasa, the legal code that had served as the backbone of Mongol governance. Recognizing its role in maintaining order across his vast and diverse territories, he ordered the compilation of all existing decrees into a single, authoritative text. The Yasa was not merely a set of laws but a blueprint for the ethical and administrative framework of the empire. It emphasized principles such as loyalty to the Khan, respect for property rights, and accountability in leadership, values that transcended cultural and ethnic boundaries. To ensure its continued enforcement, Genghis Khan appointed a cadre of judges and administrators tasked with interpreting and upholding the Yasa. These officials were drawn from various conquered peoples, reflecting his belief in meritocracy and inclusivity. By institutionalizing the Yasa, Genghis Khan sought to create a lasting system of governance that could withstand the inevitable pressures of succession and expansion. Equally important was his focus on succession. Aware that the question of who would inherit his mantle could destabilize the empire, Genghis Khan convened a Kurultai to formally designate his heir. Among his sons, Ogedei emerged as the chosen successor, a decision influenced by his diplomatic acumen, administrative skills, and ability to navigate the complex politics of the court. While some within the family harbored resentment over the selection, particularly Joki and Chagatai, whose ambitions had been sidelined, Genghis Khan made it clear that unity among his descendants was paramount. He exhorted them to put aside personal rivalries and work together for the greater good of the empire. To this end, he divided the empire into appanages, assigning each son control over a specific region, while maintaining Ogedai's authority as the Great Khan. This arrangement aimed to balance individual autonomy with collective responsibility, though it sowed seeds of tension that would later erupt into conflict. Genghis Khan also took steps to preserve the empire's military dominance. Despite his advancing age, he remained deeply involved in military strategy, overseeing campaigns in Central Asia and the Caucasus to quell lingering resistance and secure key trade routes. He entrusted Subutai and Jebe with leading expeditions into Eastern Europe, where they conducted reconnaissance missions and tested the vulnerabilities of distant kingdoms. These incursions demonstrated the Mongols' capacity for projection of power far beyond their borders, setting the stage for future conquests under Ogedai's reign. At the same time, Genghis Khan reinforced the logistical infrastructure that underpinned Mongol warfare, expanding the Yam network and stockpiling resources at strategic locations. His emphasis on preparedness underscored his belief that the empire's survival depended on its ability to adapt and respond swiftly to emerging threats, beyond governance and military matters. Genghis Khan devoted considerable effort to fostering cultural cohesion within the empire. He encouraged the exchange of ideas and technologies between different regions, promoting cross-cultural pollination that enriched Mongol society. Scholars, artisans, and engineers captured during campaigns were relocated to Karakorum, the burgeoning capital, where they contributed to the city's transformation into a vibrant center of learning and innovation. Genghis Khan himself patronized intellectual endeavors, commissioning works on astronomy, medicine, and history. This commitment to knowledge reflected his vision of an empire that thrived not only through conquest, but also through the integration of diverse traditions and expertise. By celebrating the achievements of subject peoples, he sought to build a shared identity that transcended tribal loyalties and fostered a sense of belonging among his subjects. As Genghis Khan approached the end of his life, he grappled with questions of mortality and purpose. In private moments, he reflected on the journey that had taken him from the steppes of Mongolia to the pinnacle of global power. He often recalled the lessons imparted by his parents, particularly Holin's wisdom about the importance of resilience and justice. These memories reinforced his conviction that the empire he had built must endure, not as a monument to his own greatness, but as a testament to the enduring strength of the Mongol people. In one of his final acts, he issued a decree mandating the preservation of oral histories and genealogies, ensuring that the stories of his ancestors and contemporaries would be passed down through generations. This initiative highlighted his desire to anchor the empire's identity in its past, while propelling it toward the future. In August 1227, Genghis Khan passed away during a campaign against the Tangut Kingdom in western China. The circumstances surrounding his death remain shrouded in mystery, with some accounts suggesting illness and others pointing to injuries sustained in battle. True to his pragmatic nature, he had instructed his followers to keep his passing secret until the campaign was complete, lest news of his demise embolden their enemies. When the truth finally emerged, the empire mourned the loss of its founder, whose name had become synonymous with unparalleled achievement and indomitable will. The immediate aftermath of Genghis Khan's death revealed both the strengths and vulnerabilities of the empire he had forged. Under Ogedei's leadership, the Mongols continued their expansion, launching invasions of Eastern Europe, Persia, and Korea. The administrative systems established by Genghis Khan proved resilient, enabling the empire to function smoothly, despite the absence of its architect. However, tensions simmered beneath the surface, as rival factions vied for influence and control. The division of the empire into appanages eventually led to fragmentation, culminating in the dissolution of the unified Mongol state after Ogedei's death. Yet, even as the empire splintered, the legacy of Genghis Khan endured. His innovations in governance, military strategy, and cultural integration left an indelible mark on world history, shaping the course of civilizations for centuries to come. In the broader historical narrative, Genghis Khan is remembered as a figure of paradox, a ruthless conqueror who wielded terror as a weapon, yet also a visionary leader who championed unity, tolerance, and progress. His impact extended far beyond the borders of the Mongol Empire, influencing everything from the spread of technologies like gunpowder and papermaking to the facilitation of trade along the Silk Road. By bridging East and West, he laid the groundwork for increased interaction and exchange between disparate cultures, accelerating the pace of globalization long before the term entered common usage. For all the destruction wrought by his armies, Genghis Khan's legacy is ultimately one of connection, a reminder that even in the pursuit of domination, humanity has the capacity to transcend barriers and forge bonds that endure across time and space. The story of Genghis Khan is not merely a chronicle of conquests and empires. It is a profound exploration of the human condition, a narrative that resonates with timeless themes of ambition, resilience, and the eternal quest for legacy. From the windswept steppes of Mongolia to the furthest reaches of Eurasia, his journey encapsulates the duality of human nature, the capacity for both creation and destruction, unity and division, compassion and ruthlessness. As we reflect on his life and legacy, we are confronted with fundamental questions about the nature of power, the cost of ambition, and the enduring impact of those who shape the world in their image. At its core, Genghis Khan's rise to power was driven by an unyielding determination to transcend the limitations imposed upon him by birth, circumstance, and fate. Born into a fractured world of warring tribes, he transformed adversity into opportunity, forging alliances, mastering strategy, and cultivating loyalty among those who shared his vision. His ability to unite disparate groups under a single banner speaks to the universal human desire for belonging and purpose. Yet, this unity came at a price. The Mongol Empire, for all its achievements, was built on the ruins of countless civilizations, its progress marked by bloodshed and displacement. This paradox invites us to consider whether the ends ever justify the means and whether the pursuit of greatness inherently necessitates sacrifice. Genghis Khan's approach to leadership offers a compelling lens through which to examine the dynamics of power. Unlike many rulers of his time, who relied on hereditary privilege or divine mandate, he constructed his authority on the principles of meritocracy and accountability. By elevating individuals based on skill rather than lineage, he challenged entrenched hierarchies and redefined what it meant to lead. This emphasis on competence over birthright remains relevant today, serving as a reminder of the transformative potential of inclusive governance. However, his methods also raise ethical dilemmas. The use of terror as a tool of control, while effective in achieving short-term objectives, often sowed seeds of resentment that undermined long-term stability. Can true leadership coexist with fear, or does it require trust and mutual respect to endure? The cultural and technological exchanges facilitated by the Mongol Empire further highlight the dualities inherent in Genghis Khan's legacy. On one hand, the Pax Mongolica, a period of relative peace and stability, enabled unprecedented levels of interaction between East and West, fostering advancements in science, medicine, and commerce. Cities like Karakoram became melting pots of innovation, where scholars and artisans from diverse backgrounds collaborated to push the boundaries of knowledge. On the other hand, the empire's expansion disrupted traditional ways of life, displacing populations and erasing cultural identities. The Silk Road, once a symbol of interconnectedness, also carried the specter of disease and exploitation. These contradictions remind us that progress is rarely linear, and that every stride forward can cast shadows of unintended consequences. Perhaps the most enduring aspect of Genghis Khan's legacy lies in his vision of a unified world. In an era defined by fragmentation and isolation, he dared to imagine a realm where borders dissolved, languages intertwined, and cultures merged. His dream of a global empire may have been rooted in conquest, but it also embodied a yearning for connection, a recognition that humanity's strength lies in its diversity. Today, as nations grapple with issues of globalization, migration, and identity, Genghis Khan's story serves as both inspiration and caution. It challenges us to envision a world where differences are celebrated rather than feared, where collaboration supersedes competition, and where the bonds of shared humanity outweigh the divisions of geography and ideology. Ultimately, Genghis Khan's life forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our societies. His triumphs remind us of the heights humans can achieve when driven by vision and resolve, while his failures underscore the fragility of even the most ambitious endeavors. He was neither holy hero nor villain, saint nor sinner, but something far more complex. A man shaped by his environment, guided by his dreams, and constrained by his flaws. In this complexity lies his enduring relevance. Through his story, we see reflections of our own struggles for meaning, for belonging, for immortality, and are compelled to ask ourselves what kind of legacy we wish to leave behind. As the sun sets over the steppes, casting golden light across the land that bore him, the echoes of Genghis Khan's legacy continue to reverberate. They are found in the bustling markets of modern cities, where goods and ideas traverse continents, in the corridors of power, where leaders wrestle with the weight of responsibility, and in the hearts of individuals who dare to dream beyond the horizons of their birth. The universal ruler may have departed this world nearly 8 centuries ago, but his spirit endures in the stories we tell, the lessons we learn, and the paths we choose to follow. And so, the tale of Genghis Khan is not just a chapter in history. It is a mirror held up to humanity itself, inviting us to gaze deeply and ask, who are we, and what do we aspire to become?